Janet's going to take her stand right now. Oh, Janet's going to take her stand. Talk about, I'll see if I can do it.
Oh,
brute force.
She got it.
Brute force. I'm like, I'll just, big, strong, see woman. I don't know. Hi.
Mindy says you have leverage.
Yes, that would be me, leverage. And you talked about stress points, and I see more boats coming in, and hello. And I've been doing that with the literary magazines. I'm like, I've got so much, and I've got to do it monthly versus bi-monthly next year, and people are wanting to submit chapbooks to me that would become books. I'm like, that's it. I'm just saying, we're not doing chapbooks right now. The end. And if I'm going to be doing online things, there are just going to be links to the writings instead of making web pages. I'm like, I'm doing too much stuff. I've got to figure out a way to be able to spread it all out so it works. Hi. I hope everyone is doing well. I am going to read to you from this book that's called Revealed, which is why there's a stethoscope on it, because you want to know what's deep down inside of you, I suppose. This was a collection book that was done of 17 years worth of stuff, and this is longer pieces. I am going to, and because we might have the time for it, when it became Christmas time a number of years ago, I wrote a really, really long love poem for my husband. I read it once to him at Christmas time, and I read it once on a boat later, and I'm going to share it with you now. And there are derivations of this poem that have been used for things since then, and I will share them with you. And he's not even here to appreciate them because he's still parking a car and walking over, but he's on his way, and so he'll hear it. This long first one is called 7 and 7 plus 18. The reason why it's called that, it was 7 years, 7 months, and 18 days since the day we married. And so all of these love poems start with that, like 11 and 2 plus 14, where we sing what we've been, So they're all based on the day that we got married, and that's what those numbers are for. But so this is a long one for you to start. I know I'm supposed to be the creative one, but I started my schooling in computer science engineering. If I ever wrote anything, it wasn't creative. It was what makes sense, which is what I feel. I say I'm a writer. I say I'm an artist, but I haven't known what to say to you. And if I wrote something, it would be too straightforward. But I want to do this for you. I want you to understand that all I can think is that if I were a painter, I'd be Michelangelo and paint my love for you like it was a Sistine Chapel, our hands touching in the sky like it was our Last Supper. If I were a painter, I'd probably I'd probably give you something that would be cherished, that may deteriorate with each passing century, but as time wore on, the oil paint would peel away and it would show more layers of my love for you. Okay. What am I saying? Paint like Michelangelo. I'd probably paint like Jackson Pollock and throw splashes of paint on canvas and call dripping lines of splattered paint art. Maybe I'm not an artist, but when I met you, I asked you questions. I wanted to learn about you. I wanted to soak you in. So maybe I'm not a writer. Maybe I'm not an artist. Maybe I'm an observer, like an astronomer, looking out into the universe, trying to understand what makes everything, everything. What makes my tie to you so complete, so concrete, like my grandfather's construction business, like my brother's desire to design buildings. You wondered why I love tall buildings, reaching up toward the sky. Maybe my tie is so much more concrete than art. I travel around the world learning different histories, different cultures. I fly in airplanes, I jump from airplanes, I pilot airplanes getting closer to the stars. And when I'm on the ground, I admire tall buildings reaching up towards infinity. So maybe I'm meant to be an astronomer, studying something colder than ice, far away. Pluto is an errant ball of ice. I don't know. I always thought it was a planet. But then they told me, no, it's not. It's just a ball of ice from the Kuiper Belt. The Kuiper Belt. Isn't it ironic? They say it wasn't what I wanted, but I wanted to learn, and it is still a part of me. We went outside at night in Fairhope to see the intricate quilt of stars in the sky, and lying in the grass, the stars over us, blanketing us, smothering me in my love for you. I rested my head on your shoulder and fell asleep with you, under the stars. Molecule by molecule, we originate from stars, and the stars were our blanket as a deer came walking feet away from us, not afraid. And now I know that we are all linked, our bodies formed from stardust. But outer space is a violent place. Violent explosions create the stars. Our Earth has earthquakes, avalanches, volcanoes, tsunamis, typhoons. And in all of this madness, somehow I found you. I'm not a writer. I'm not a journalist. I'm an observer. And I came to you asking questions and somehow broke your hardened shell. Yes, in all this madness, somehow I found you. I survived the thunder, the lightning, the blizzards, the hurricanes, the tornadoes. I've lived through the drought. I've survived it all. I've even been dealt a near-fatal blow from humanity. And it's as if the gods are paying me back for everything by giving me you. And with you, I've walked along the tops of glaciers, crouching down from the violent winds, looking down into the beginnings of time. With you, I've watched solar storms and the geomagnetic operations of the aurora borealis from near the Arctic Circle. And what has man done that you can see from outer space? Well, I believe I held your hand while we walked along the Great Wall of China. As I said before, I'm only an observer, but now I can't imagine seeing the world without you. And with these observations, I thee wed, because I'll never let you go. I heard a country song about a man who died and was watching his love from above. And I thought that if one of us left this earth, would they watch from above and wait till we were together again? Once our spirits found each other, I wonder if our spirits would hold hands the way we always do when we're together, making sure we don't let each other go. I've seen galaxies collide. I've seen comets smash into planets. I've seen supernova and the death of stars, and all of that, I still found you. As I said, I'm only an observer, but I found what I've been looking for. So I'll tighten my grip on your hand, because I never want to let you go. That was long, just as the love of my life came in for the end of the poem. Is it okay if I do two short ones? That was a long one. Is that okay? Just, they're similarly themed. Because this one says observations 9 and 6. The 9 and 6 relate to when we were married. This is observations 9 and 6. I know, thank you, John. I know I'm supposed to be the creative one, but I started my schooling in computer science engineering, and if I ever write anything, it's not creative. It's what makes sense, which is what I feel. I fly in airplanes, I jump from airplanes, I pilot airplanes trying to get closer to the stars. And as I said, maybe I'm not a writer. Maybe I'm an observer, an astronomer, looking out past the Kuiper Belt, trying to understand what makes everything, everything. I have walked on the tops of glaciers, crouching down from the violent winds, looking down at the beginnings of time. I have watched solar storms from the geomagnetic aberrations of the aurora borealis from near the Arctic Circle. I may have even bought some potato vodka in Russia, or been there to hold your hand walking on the Great Wall of China. Molecule by molecule, we originate from stars, but outer space is a violent place, and we are all linked. We feel the good and the bad. We see meteor showers while galaxies collide, watch comet trails in the night sky as comets smash into planets. We witness the death of stars. We learn from both the living and the dead, because yes, we are all linked, and we are all observers, and I don't want to let you go. Thank you so much, people. And this is the last prize. Is that okay? Otherwise? Guess so. And us. Well, that was the three. The first one was long. Thank you. 11 and 2 plus 8. Maybe I'm an observer, like an astronomer, looking out in the universe, trying to understand what makes everything. Maybe I'm meant to be an astronomer, studying things colder than ice, far away. You know, Pluto is an errant ball of ice. I don't know, it was taught it was a planet, but then they tell me no, it's not. It's just a ball of ice from the Kuiper Belt. But molecule by molecule, we originate from stars. And now I know that we're all linked, our bodies formed by stardust. But outer space is a violent place. Violent explosions create the stars. Our Earth has earthquakes, avalanches, volcanoes, tsunamis, typhoons, and in all of this madness, somehow I found you. I've survived the thunder and the lightning, the blizzards and the hurricanes and the tornadoes. I've lived through the drought. I've survived it all. I've even been dealt a near fatal blow from humanity. And with you, I've walked on the tops of glaciers, crouching down from those violent winds, looking down at the beginnings of time. With you, I've watched solar storms from the geomagnetic aberrations of the aurora borealis from near the Arctic Circle. We've even looked at Venus through our telescopes as I've watched you photograph Orion in the night sky. So, with these observations, I thee wed. Because after all my searching throughout the universe, I've found what I've been looking for.
Oh,
It's Janet Kuypers. I'm just glad I have a belt to hold up my pants.
Hi there. I would like to read 3 poems from this book, Revealed, because it reveals something to you about me. Blah, blah, blah. This first one, I don't know, they're from different sections. This first one's called Scratch the Surface. You don't have to pull out the book for men to know how men degrade the weaker sex, or even assault women with the English language. Hey, they can try to make it sound nice. Think it's a compliment to call us a honey, a fox, a pumpkin, their cougar, or even a hot chick. But if calling us food or animals is too degrading, I can still be your babe. I can still be your girl. I mean, calling us less than an adult can still degrade us. But I get furious when I'm wearing a tank top, you know, because it's hot outside, and a semi or a truck honks their horn. I mean, do they think that honking their horns is a compliment, or are they busy blowing their horns to try to show off their big rig? I thought the book for men covered all of the bases, even with sex in terms that men could understand. Banging, hammering, nailing, screwing, scoring. But I was in a car, and because it was warm, I was wearing a tank top. Again, a truck driver sexual turn on. And I got honked at by a semi-driver while sitting in a car going down the highway. And that's when I heard one more term for women. Someone informed me that after the truck honks their horn and their horn blares, the truck driver then radios ahead to other semis to let them know the color, make, and model of a car with a good-looking seat cover. Wow, a seat cover. Thanks. Now we're reduced to good-looking upholstery, something to keep around to sit on. But then we can't stay pretty if all you've kept us down for so many years before we get to be something prettier along to replace us. So as I sit in this car, covering myself whenever we're near a truck, I think about the book for men, with jokes objectifying women, reminding us of a bush or a slit or a crack or a box or a hole or a farm implement, a hoe. Oh, but I'm telling you, baby doll, as thorough as that handbook seems, it doesn't even scratch the surface. It's crazy. And I'm putting one that is more melodramatic in the middle. This one is called Freedom Just Past the Fence. After working for the Army for years on repairing jet engines, I ended up being stationed in Pennsylvania one summer repairing air conditioners and refrigerators. I'd only do a little work, and then there'd be nothing to do for a day or two. But the thing I remember is that at the time, Cubans were defecting to the United States by boat. They'd set sail for Florida, most of them dehydrated and all of them malnourished. The U.S. government didn't want them spreading diseases in our country, so when the Cubans would appear off the coast of Miami, the military would be waiting to make sure that they were healthy. Well, all I knew was that they got all of these Cubans into trucks that we called cattle cars with only a few benches and trucked them up to Pennsylvania where I was, and the military gave them some shots to make sure that they weren't dying. So these people, after escaping their country in a shoddy wooden boat, were taken by the U.S. military, herded into boxed-in trucks, and shipped up to the country so that they could be given shots and detained. These Cubans who came here wanting freedom now had to wait in a fenced-in area until they were tested and given food. And it was my job to make sure that their fridge and air conditioners were working. So I sat there for a day or two at a time, drinking cans of beer and looking out my window. I had a view of the razor wire fence, and all I remember was seeing all of these Cubans leaning on the chain link fence, wondering if this is what it was like to be free, holding onto the metal, looking out at what they were sure was freedom. This one is called Taking Over the Controls. One of the times I went to D.C., I was taking a friend there to see the town because this 5'6" woman was about to go into surgery to remove a cyst in one of her ovaries the size of a softball. Well, a friend was driving us to O'Hare Airport, but before we got on the road, I picked up a small Domino's pizza, and as we started driving along the Kennedy, we agreed that the best bite of any slice of pizza was always that center point bite. So we agreed right then and there to eat all the center bites of this one triangle of pizza before we were to go on eat more pizza before our flight. That's always, we'll just go through it. Why not, right? And, another time I was flying to New Orleans on a business trip, and one coworker was scheduled to fly with me. Now, This coworker was cute as a button, this girl from Kentucky, and she was a riot to hang around with, and she was deadly afraid of flying. And I knew her fear, and so I thought, and this was back before 9/11, where you could bring water or soda or anything into an airport with no problem. I brought a 32-ounce plastic cup from a fast food joint that was filled with hot chocolate and peppermint schnapps. She said she was afraid, so I said, enjoy some drink before we get on the plane. This thing along. And she ordered beers on the plane, and as I knew that we were landing, I started telling her jokes and keeping her all enthralled until I finally told her, hey, we landed, and she made it, and everything was okay. I'm used to flying in airplanes for big events, even if the events were actually flying in an airplane right before New Year's in Southwest Florida, getting trained, photographing the view from up above before I actually took over the controls, or being up in a plane in Longmont, Colorado with no side door and a parachute strapped to my back until somebody said, okay, we're up 12,500 feet now, it's time for you to start moving. And you waddle to the open door, hold on to that fast-moving airplane for a second for dear life, and then let go. I've flown in airplanes. I've flown to marry people at a wedding. I've flown for vacation. I've flown for my mother's cremation. It's amazing that sometimes a trip can be a story, but wait for the flight to land, because that's when the story can really begin. Janet Kuypers. The last thing I do is bring people at peace. Hi there. I don't know. Sing it off for the rhyme. I thought I would read to you a few pieces from the book Revealed, this collection book of poetry over 17 years? What? That sounds crazy. But a few days ago, I performed as a finale feature in the Texas Night Sky Festival. They asked me to come in and do some poems, and I was like, oh, thank you very much. That made me happy. And one of the pieces I did was an edited version of one of these poems, so I will share it with you and go on an astronomy theme. This is called Universe Now in Color. So I heard the NASA artists in residence talk about the images we see from Hubble. And I've seen these telescope photos, these colors from galaxy clusters and nebulas are mind-boggling. But they explain that when the images come in, they are all digital. A series of ones, a series of zeros, and there's no color in the images at all. I mean, astronomers describe outer space as an amazingly vast black void. So, when people get the data from these images, they imagine the heat radiating from these objects. I mean, you know, red is hot, blue is cold. And they think about what looks best for these images. And I thought, I mean, you know, this cluster looks perfect in pink. And I think this galaxy should really be red. And the gamma ray verse looks great in green. And you know, the clouds around this orange nebula looks better in blue. I mean, they even show planetary rings in green and purple. I mean, really, is that how they do it? I mean, I know that these images in outer space are beautiful. I didn't actually think, though, that they were literally an art form. Hubble takes pictures of objects in space with different filters that capture light rays that the human eye can't see. So when we get final full-color images from Hubble, they are nothing like what the universe really is. So outer space really becomes abstract art. It's a crazy concept if you think about it, right? This one is called Beauty in the Eyes of Einstein. I heard NASA scientists say that Einstein dismissed some of his theories, even some theories we may know all too well. But Einstein didn't like some of his theories because he thought they weren't beautiful. And I wonder, what is beauty? Is it the geomagnetic aberrations of the aurora borealis dancing along the horizon of the Arctic Circle? Is it the way you look at me with those gorgeous doe eyes after we've been apart for so long? Is it the scattered collisions from Comet Shoemaker leaving 9 into the planet Jupiter? Is it what I feel when your arms are finally around me and I don't want to open my eyes and I never want to let go? Is it the eternally changing whips of volcanic trails in Saturn's moon Titan's atmosphere? Is it the way that listening to the music you make fills me with such energy? Or is it the converting matter into pure energy with just the right formula? Einstein believed, quote, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all art and science." So, am I driven to look up the stars in the night sky, to see stars from billions of years ago, to fall in love every night? Einstein reminds us, we are all ruled by what we do, by impulses. So is it how on impulse I move a bit closer to you so I can feel the heat from your body so close to mine? We ask, what is beauty? They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it makes me wonder. Thank you. I love it when readers are hearing it. This one is Love Affair with the Moon, 2012. How do we understand this love for what we see in the night sky? I think everyone loves the moon, and I think everyone was transfixed to their televisions or radios when we heard that first one small step for man, that one giant leap for mankind. Scientists at NASA during the Cold War considered setting off nuclear bombs on the dark side of the moon because, you see, no one sees that side of the moon. And it would all be a safe distance from us on Earth. But what would that do to our weather or our orbits? The earthquakes that caused the devastating tsunami in Asia slowed the rotation of this planet for a full second. And they say committing nuclear atrocities on the moon is a safe distance for us on Earth. Our calendars have leap years because we can't get the time right. In a few months, we even have to add seconds to a day to adjust our calendar to the slowing of the Earth's rotation. Astronomers now estimate that because of gravity's change, the moon every year is almost 1.5 inches farther away from the Earth. So if you remember the moon looking so big when you looked at it in the night sky when you were little, well, you may have been right. Astronomy is like a forbidden love affair, something whose constancy can give you hope, even when you're only standing outside in the night sky looking up at its perennial beauty. It is something one person may never actually touch, but it is something we can always, like star-crossed lovers, admire from afar. Thank you.